Hello everyone. I welcome to all of you in GSC Score. I hope so you are doing well. I have a very special message for all serious UPSC aspirants. In this session, we will try to discuss and we will try to decode the questions and we will know how to write the answer for maths. In this session, I will take the questions from the geography optional and from the oceanography point of view, and number of things we will discuss in this session, that how to understand the question and how to write the answer and how to select the minimum words to get the benefit get the effective answer, limited words with effective answer, and how to arrange the answer and how to add the factual information and how to add the maps and how to add the core information, and first of all how to classify the answer, because as we know that there are number of dynamic questions. The aura of dynamic questions has been UPSC continuously asking, frequently asking the questions from the core area and from the current affair, from the oceanography, from the Indian geography, from the multiple subjects are interlinking to each other and forming the single questions. And now you have to classify and justify the questions. And it ये questions कैसे justify करेंगे आप on the behalf of the practice. If you do practice regularly, definitely you can achieve your target easily. So here's the first question. Look, read carefully, then we'll try to decode the answer. And we will try to highlight the most important things. First, analyze the role of waves, tides, and marine resources in shaping the coastal economy of India. Coastal economy of India. How do these natural phenomena support key industries like fisheries, tourism, and shipping? Look, the question is focusing on shaping the coastal economy, and as we know that India has sufficient longest coastal boundary, more than 7,500 kilometers, and almost 9 states making the coastal boundaries. And as we know that we have a very rough and terrain type coastal boundaries, and number of states and its economy and their economies are depends on the marine resources. Their number of resources and the number of activities and type of economic activities, basically like fisheries, tourism, and shipping, means ports and navigation. And as we know, the number of peoples go to the coastal states on summer, specifically October, November, and December and January. These are the prime months to visit in a coastal states. So here we identified through the waves, tides, marine resources, means just we have to analyze, and first of all we have to understand how to pay the answer. Look, analyze the role of waves. So behalf on the basis of role of waves, tides, and marine resources, we have to pay the answer through the fisheries, and we have to attach. When we talk about the waves, we have to mention the fisheries, tourism, and shipping. And role of tides, we also mention fisheries, tourism, and shipping. And then we have to talk about the marine resources, and again we have to add fisheries, tourism, and shippings, because it's happening around the coastal areas of India, and these all coastal states and their economy, and then coastal economy depends on number of activities. And here the 20 marks, 250 words, and behalf of these all things you have to choose the limited words to explain effective answer. And as we know that we have to go through the introduction, main body, and conclusion. Always remember, in conclusion you have to uh, follow some important steps, means you have to explain the questions analysis or conciseness, ठीक है, and you have to give some important suggestions, है ना. चलिए start करते हैं. Let's take a look that how to pay the answer. From the introduction side you have to pay, and you have to start the answer from the coastal line, मतलब coastal boundary or coastal line. India having more than 7,500 kilometer long coastline means making 9 state boundaries, including, मतलब यहाँ इसमें we can add some Andaman Nicobar and Lakshadweep, including Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar. And you have to add that dynamically shaped by marine forces. These all are the marine forces, and as we know that we read these all marine forces in oceanography. Okay, so waves, tides, and the marine resources. Another important thing you have to mention in introduction that these natural phenomena directly impact coastal geomorphology. Okay, they directly impact coastal geomorphology and provide critical inputs to India's coastal economy. These are the important sectors of coastal economy, and you have to remember natural phenomena directly impact coastal geomorphology. As we know that when we talk about the waves, so you have to understand erosional activities and depositional activities. And on the behalf of tides, you have to also mention periodic rise and fall of the oceanic water, which is highly useful for navigation. ठीक है, navigation means specifically for ports. You have to also mention about the ports, the role of ports through the tides, because we have a number of tidal ports. And on the other hand, marine resources. Marine resources means fishes or other another important resources you can mention over there. So these all are the important things, and directly indirectly they are impacting the geomorphology of the coastal areas, है ना, इस चीज को हमें याद रखना है. तो we mention number of important things in introduction with limited words. Now let's move toward the next point. This is the man body. This is the man body. We start our answer from the role of waves. This is the role of waves. We started our answer from the erosional and depositional activity. Erosional and depositional activity. So I have to decide which example I have to choose. I am taking a erosional example from the Kerala side and one example from the depositional sides. So I started my answer. Wave continuously reshaped the coast through the erosion, that is Kerala's retreating coastline. Here is the number of examples. The coastline of Kerala is decreasing. Yes, and I mentioned this important line, retreating coastline. And another important example I mentioned, deposition, formation of spits bars in Odisha. I also मतलब मैं mention कर सकता, I can also mention spit, bar, beach, tambolo. These all are the examples of depositional type of examples of oceanography. Okay, next, influencing the location and sustainability of ports and harbors. Okay, these are the another important examples which I added in the roles of waves. Means in limited lines, I mentions the role of erosional activity, and I mentioned the role of deposition activity, and I also mentioned influencing the location and sustainability of ports. I added some important points like location and sustainability of ports. Okay, so I mentioned the maximum information with limited words. Next, I mentioned the surf tourism. As we know that Goa, Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Kerala, these are the prominent states. Look, wave patterns like sports supports water sports and surf tourism in places like Kovalam, Kerala, and Varkala, boosting local economies. So I mentioned only single example. Okay, I mentioned the single examples. Look, I finished my role of waves. Now I move toward the role of tides. I already told you, I have already told you about the what is the definition of tides. Now I have to talk about the importance and role of the tides. Look, navigation and ports operation. During the tides, look, tidal ports like Kandla, Haldia, Kolkata depends on the tidal knowledge to facilitate efficient docking and cargo movements. I mentioned only single example. You can also mention the number of examples, and you can mention through the maps. You can add the maps. Okay, okay, Kandla, Haldia, or Kolkata. These are the important tidal ports, and these all ports are very important for cargo movement. यहाँ मेरे क्वेश्चन का एक पॉइंट खत्म हो जाता है. नाउ आई मूव टुवर्ड द टाइडल एनर्जी पोटेंशियल्स. एज वी नो दैट when we talk about the tides, so these are very important for tidal energy, and these are the places: Gulf of Khambat and Gulf of Kutch. High tidal amplitudes, okay, I found there, and these are very important for renewable tidal energy projects. So in two lines, I mentioned the locations of the particular area, and I also discussed the renewable tidal energy projects. So these are the limited words and giving the maximum information. Next, mangrove forest or mangrove ecosystem. As we know that tide supports mangroves, and I choose an example from the Sundarban site, providing habitat for fish species critical to fisheries. Yes, provide the fish species critical to fisheries. Another important thing I mentioned, you can mention Mumbai, Gulf of Kutch, I mean Gulf of Khambat, and Kutch, and Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Odisha, and Andhra. These all are the places where are the rich in the fisheries and other important things. So I discussed and I started. I choose Sundarban. Getting my points? So I mentioned the navigation and ports operation, tidal and energy potentials, and mangrove ecosystems. I added the fisheries, and there is no doubt these are the centers of the tourism. Okay, so tidal energy ecosystems for fisheries, tourism, and the ports and trades. ये सारी चीजें मैंने इसमें mention की, but having with limited words. Next, marine resources. Marine resources. As we know that the 9 states of Indian mainland sites making the coastline, the longest coastline of India's. Okay, so now number of states, these all states, and having the largest chunk of the people depends on the marine resources. That was the reason that largest we are the third largest fish producer in the world, and having more than 4 million people depend on marine resources or marine fisheries. Okay, like Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. You can also mention West Bengal, okay, Odisha, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Kerala. Okay, I discussed the Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. One from the western coast and another from the eastern coast. Okay, you can also mention the Malabar and Coromandel. You can choose the different names, but you have to select the limited words to explain the maximum information. Yes, it is finished. Fisheries. Now I discussed about the tourism. As we know that marine resources means Goa and Andaman Nicobar Island attract millions people annually to boosting the economy. There is no doubt. I choose Goa and Andaman Nicobar. You can choose Kerala and Lakshadweep. Okay, these are the prominent sites. Another important thing I mentioned, shipping and trade. Shipping and trade. Over 90% of India's trade by volume is seaborne, with major ports like Mumbai, Chennai handling over 1.2 billion tons of cargo annually. And as we know that in Indian mainland, almost 12 to 13 ports are the major ports from Gujarat, Maharashtra, like Kandla Port, Mundra Port, Nahava Sheva, Jawaharlal Nehru Port, Marmugaon Port, Kochi Port, Tuticorin, Ennore, Chennai, okay, or Vishakhapatnam, Paradeep, and Haldia. These are the prominent, the major ports of India, and more than 500 minor ports is also working over there. So I talked about and I discussed and write the over 90% of India's trade by volume is seaborne. No, there is no doubt. Yes, it is happening. And I mentioned the shipping and the role of the trade. Okay, I discussed the Mumbai, which is a natural port from the western side and the largest port of India on the western coast. Okay, so generally known the gateway of India. And Chennai is the artificial port from the Tamil Nadu side. These are the two most important port from the western coast, and another is from the eastern coast. ये मैंने example choose किए. So I concluded the marine resources with the help of fisheries, tourism, shipping and trade. Now it's time to conclude the answer. Look, I concluded the answer. Marine forces drive India's coastal economy. Sustainable management of these systems is crucial for long-term economic resilience. Look, marine forces drives India's coastal economy. Okay, I decided the right to marine forces, not tides, waves, and marine resources. Conclusively, I write about the marine forces drive India's coastal economy. Now I mention and I suggested the sustainable management of these systems. Why? Because these are very crucial for long-term economic resilience. Okay, that was the reason in few words I mentioned the importance of the answer and then I suggested some important advices. Okay, first of all, I mentioned the sustainable management and then for long-term economic resilience. So these are the important thing which we have to remember during the answer writing. Okay. Now I have a very special gift for you. This is for practice for you specifically. Here is the question related to the current questions. You have to write in a proper way, and you have to follow each and every important thing. Then you have to submit this question given below the link. Then we will discuss over on the questions in upcoming days. And then I will tell you how many students opted the correct thing and how many students need to improve their writing skills. So this initiative was started by the JS Score and my name is Dr. Abid and see you soon. This is enough from this side. Take care.